times have you skated this year, Dave?
I have skated. I skated yesterday. I skated. It's three tops, I'd say, and one of those sessions was like an absolute nothing. Went to the skate park. It was all puddly. Didn't have long. There was loads of wee kids on scooters, despite the mess. And then a guy came over who I used to skate with in the 90s. He'd happened to move back to town. So I felt a bit weird, like still being at the same skate park.
Did you chat?
20,
Did,
yeah,
did you
chatted.
catch
Yeah, he's
up?
a nice guy. I'd actually met him once in Glasgow. And he kind of recognized me. He's fairly distinctive, so I recognize him, despite him being younger than us. And I remember him as being this like little kid. And I've actually got a photo. I will never find it now. I've got a photo of him doing like a biryani flip out of the bowl, like because we
Uh,
just used to use this bowl as like a launch all day long.
yeah,
And
yeah.
he was a bit of a gymnast kid. Used to wear a bright yellow, like fluorescent yellow helmet, and like he could do like kind of crazy flips out of the bowl. So I remembered him. So we had a wee catch up when we were both staying in Shawlands. Just by chance, we bumped into each other in a bar. So I kind of was aware of him, and he knew I lived there, so I didn't feel quite so bad. Like, because I did totally be like, I have left this skate park, you know. The last time you saw me, I was a teenager and I was here,
Yeah.
and here I am, 41, and I'm still in the same spot. But he's a nice guy. No, he's moved back. A similar story to us. He's moved to an area just because he had a wee kid and stuff like that. So I might catch him. He was making noises about maybe getting the skates out and stuff like
That's
that. But I
cool.
think he quit probably around the same time as I quit. But yeah, that was a write-off session. Session yesterday was nice because it was sunny, just at the skate park again. But the park was mostly all puddles and stuff. There was a little area that you could skate, and I was playing on two things. But even then, you couldn't get a proper run at anything.
Yeah.
So it's like that kind of the rail would go. You either come up the bank to the rail or down going on the rail and down the bank. But at the bottom of the bank was a big swamp, so you just kind of had to hit the rail side on if you ever wanted to use it, or all of that
I
kind of
find that
nonsense.
really hard to work with, I
That's where I would end up doing that even if it was dry, though. I'd find some bullshit way of playing with a thing.
That's good. That's good. Have you ever done a flip? Have you ever done a flip on
No,
skates?
no, I've
You don't
not.
strike me as someone that flipped in the
I
90s.
I I a misty flip is still like my kind of holy grail thing. There was a couple of guys could do like proper ones, and I always toyed with it. Anytime I'd go to like a swimming pool, I'd like practice them and stuff like that. But yeah, just the kind
That's
of
such a
self.
rollerblader thing to do, is to like film yourself doing a misty flip like into the river off a concrete
Yeah.
block or something.
And now my kids are going to the swimming pool. There's one swimming pool that we go to that allows jumping in, which feels kind of rare these days. And it like you can kind of jump in from different heights the way it kind of goes up. Um, and I'm always tempted, but I don't want to be that dickhead dad who's like,
It's
well,
easy
like,
though. It like misty flipping into water's easy. I've never
yeah,
done it on
yeah.
skates. I've never done a flip.
No, never. But you could spin like you certainly weren't afraid to like kind of huck it.
Yeah, I could spin, and certain spins you'd go a bit kind of a bit off.
Hmm.
My problem with 720s was always that I kind of span it off like off the shoulder a bit.
Yeah.
So when you landed it, it looked cool, but if you didn't land it, it was kind of like it's quite exposing to the tailbone to kind of spin it that way.
And
Um,
I think you also get into that. I've certainly had it. I always have had it sometimes when you get into where you never see like good people getting it or people who do it regularly, but that thing where you get out of something just goes wrong. I don't know what bit of the launch is mistimed or the spin is mistimed, but something goes wrong and like you're kind of almost like doing that thing in the
yeah,
air. And I've been lucky. I've always being able to get a foot down to kind of cushion, but as soon as you're doing bigger spins, and if that's happening, then you kind of don't even know where. I remember that a wee bit. I could 720 out the same bowl I was talking about, that wee guy jumping out of way back when. That was always the thing. I could do like an okay 720 or a really controlled 540.
Yeah.
Um, and that was just, you would just do that all day. Like
But
that's
there
half the,
weren't many tricks then
no,
anyway, right?
no,
Because your skates were probably shit for grinding. So you could do some grinds, but you
yeah.
you couldn't
You didn't,
explore that kind of very well because I don't know, the focus kind of wasn't there. So you basically had to learn how to like three, how to five. Um, I think about how many tricks I used to do when I went to the skate park. I've got some old footage of kind of like late 90s.
hmm hmm
And it was just very much like, what can you three? What can you five? You might soul stuff, you might alley soul stuff. But I didn't really get into kind of like, I don't know, doing complicated
No,
grind until quite a bit later.
no.
It was quite a simplistic time, I
It was,
suppose.
the time was simplistic, and our skate park was quite detached. So even as somebody who was probably more into skating and following what was going on than most, like I'd buy Unity magazine and stuff like that. It was still a very much of an environment. It was a bit of a playground. So
Yeah, yeah,
the guys who were kind of, there was a good amount of guys who were like just trying to jump as high as they could. They kind of, and they didn't know any grabs really. They would just do
yeah.
something, and there was a lot of that, and that was kind of, there was a lot of that grinds. Yeah, everyone was just, there was a curb ran the length, the kind of coping curb like that would separate grass from something. You often get it at the top of like gardens. There was one of those round the whole park,
Right.
and it got up quite high in places, so you could treat it like, just how far can you go? Because you would,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and it followed all the banks of the
That's
park as
so fun,
well.
man. I could
So
skate that for ages.
yeah, so like you would just, right, that's what we're doing for the next hour, is everyone's kind of standing at the top of this bank and seeing if you can get all the way to the other end of the park doing a big backside.
It's funny.
Um yeah.
Simple
But
times.
yes, so you've been skating a bit, you seem keen.
Yeah, yeah.
Been lucky with
Feeling
the
good.
weather.
Not massively. Been skating kind of a bit indoors, a bit
Okay.
undercover. My ankle's feeling better now, which is that's kind of nearly there, which has felt good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
You're,
it's just really fun at the
you're
moment.
in,
I'm just really enjoying kind of seeing people and trying to skate a bit less on my own this
mm-hmm.
year and a bit more with people. I think when I came to sort of comp together a little bit of an edit at the back end of last year, I realized that almost all my clips were shoe cam, which is fine. I quite enjoy that. That's what my year looked like, right? So
Mm-hmm.
that's
Mm-hmm.
you just got to lean into that. But it's a bit it's a bit depressing sometimes to just skate on your own.
Yeah,
I
you
like it
did.
sometimes, sometimes it's good to just be like, I'm going to do this really boring trick. You saw that clip I did the other day with the toe roll up. You're good at this, but toe roll up and back down the bank.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It took me like 20 minutes. And if I was skating with someone, I wouldn't want to talk to them. I would just be like, I basically just have to do this 65
Yeah.
times,
Yeah,
and one of them
it's
will work.
like, I think I've said this before. It's like those guys you see who do trick shots with something for some
That's all
YouTube
it
thing. They're
is.
just, you throw this playing card, or you try and throw the CD into the bloody the Wii
Into the Nintendo,
enough
yeah,
time,
yeah.
and yeah,
That's
one of
what
the
those kind of tricks feel like to me.
yeah,
And it's
one of
just
the
like
times it's going to happen. Yeah.
yeah, it's just a test of perseverance. And I'm not a very fun person to be around when I'm trying to do those kind of tricks. Because
Uh-huh.
what I really want to do is just like block out the noise and just in a circle. Like
Yep.
it would look insane if you just there was like a skateboarding lesson going on there. This was at this underground, undercover DIY spot that I go to. And some people were doing like a skateboarding lesson.
They do less, like, so they're, how do they even
It was
organize
like a
that?
kind of like I mean, it's a lesson at a DIY skate park. So it's kind of
Yeah.
it's just someone who's like, let's get together and I'll show you how to do some stuff. So I felt super self-conscious. So I just stayed at the back end of the park doing the things that they kind of couldn't, they didn't want to touch. Um, but in some ways that's good, right? You just three-quarters of the park was just removed for me.
Yeah,
And I was like,
yeah,
right, I've got a little ledge box thing here. I've got this wedge thing here. And I just
yeah.
had a really good hour on that. But
I, I love that. That's what skating kind of. That's the bits of skating I tend to really like is these weird limitations. You'll get it if you go to a street spot because by its nature you're kind of skating one thing. Unless you've
yeah,
found some kind of plaza, street skating often is kind of one obstacle at a time. Um, but when you start doing that in skate parks, it gets quite interesting because yeah, especially a bigger park like Chris, our friend in Jersey, has that massive new park there
it's amazing.
that's flawless. But with a park that big, even if you were like a local, and I was a local at our skate park, I still am. Like I could get there in a few minutes, and I could just go there after school and stuff like that. You know it. You know every crack of it. You get bored of the main ways of doing it quite quickly, and
Yeah,
you
yeah, yeah,
suddenly have found yourself playing on some weird bit for an hour just because it mixes it up. But in a big park like that, at our age it's hard to imagine ever going there and being like, I'm going to ignore all of this, and
yeah,
me and this little funny bank are going to have an evening together. You know, it's
yeah.
hard.
Because I
Yeah,
I had that recently. I can't remember where it was, where I went. Um, but we went to this dinky little skate park and it's got a flat rail.
yeah, yeah.
And just I skated that for like an hour and a half with Matt with like zero creativity. Like it was
You're
really
skating it
fun.
really well, but
It's just grinding. It's just sliding with your feet in different positions. But it was really fun in the moment to just be like, this rail deserves to be grinded. It's low. It's nice. It was kind of fat, so it had that
yeah.
like I don't know why I prefer a fat rail to a skinny one. Just brainless stuff, really. But
But
it was
there's a
really
reason.
fun.
There's a reason people do it as well, and especially if you get a situation where everything's perfect. You know, like if it's got a run up on both sides,
It
if
was
it's not busy,
it's the
if it's
cleanest,
yeah,
most perfect flat bar I've skated in a long time.
yeah, if it's not shuggling a bit, if it's like fixed to the ground, goes a long way. Half the time you end up
You could
skating
have
these
driven a
things
car
some
into it and it wouldn't have moved. It was amazing. And it had that
yeah,
like really deep like thum like when you
yeah,
grinded it. It was great.
yeah.
Um, but those like
Uh,
mega parks, they're really fun. But when I get to them, my brain just switches off and I'm like, grind that thing, jump that thing, like zero thought of anything kind of deeper. So yeah, I'm like you. I actually quite like it if it's like the park is rammed. The only thing that's like kind of half empty to skate is like this little thing. Let's just try and work it out.
yeah,
I quite
yeah,
enjoy those little missions. You give me a big park like that Jersey one, and I just get
yeah.
real basic real quick.
There's a little exercise that sometimes I get people to do if I'm ever teaching. And it's not a obscure exercise, but it's like a little thumbnail exercise. If you're trying to design something, you draw like far too many little rectangles. So say you were designing like a magazine cover, I'll get people to draw like 30 little rectangles on a page, like small, and then you start filling in how you might arrange it. Like you've got a photo, you've got some text. Like so your first try, like title at the top, there's the photo there, the little extra bits of text go there. Number two, you're like, oh, let's maybe mix it up. Let's put the title at the bottom. Let's do that. By the time you've done like four of those, you've already exhausted the obvious ones.
Right.
But the mission is to fill all 30. So by the time you get to number 30, you're doing some weird stuff just to do something
Yeah, yeah,
different,
yeah.
just to have a new idea. And I guess the theory behind it is if you hadn't done that, you might get something on attempt 25 or idea 25 that you would never have had if you stopped at like idea 3, which was
Right.
maybe even the one you ended up doing, but the whole exercise. And that's the same thing when you've got like a little wedge with a step on it or something at a part, and that's all you're allowed to skate, right? You're like, all right, I'll grind up it, I'll grind down it. Well, now can I come from this way? And then suddenly, before
Yeah.
long, you're doing some absolute nonsense, and it
No,
might,
I love that. And my
yeah,
my old skate park when I lived back in Didcot was quite a limited park. We skated it every single day. Um, so naturally you do just kind of like bottom out all the normal stuff to do there and you just get real weird. Um,
yeah,
a park like that one in Jersey, it take
hmm
you a long time to bottom that out and start
yeah.
getting really weird, unless bits of it were kind of unskateable. It does
I
look
th
amazing though.
oh yeah,
I'd like
it
to go
looks
and session that. It looks good.
just some of the things that just look set like little kind there's like little kind of wedge over grass gaps and just little things that you don't
Yeah,
see too often that just and it all being new and flawlessly smooth. And I think a lot of the creativity, or not even creative, like we often go on about creativity like it's like this be all and end all thing. Like there's nothing wrong with just skating and d enjoying skating, but I think in a park that size, where my head would go would be to try and start combine. It would be all about lines, wouldn't it? Rather than like I'm going to
yeah,
drill into this one obstacle. It'd be like kind of get into this and then out of it in a way that would lead me to this next thing in a certain way that then would lead to
yeah.
something else would be the
I think so. And just kind of like um just I guess thinking about this thing's been designed to be grinded, but is there a but I mean having an original thought is really hard, right?
oh I
Having a
know like
truly original thought, and some of the sort of really original things I see, I don't even rate them that much.
no
It's just doing something really weird for the sake of doing something weird. But I like the exercise of like how do I just kind of do something that feels a bit more than just the same thing someone else might have done here.
yes
But that's
yes
some people tune into that in a way that's just so elite. Um, and just like how
yeah
do you do that?
and
How'd you get to that?
it is such little details if you're being concerned with like what counts, if you're being concerned with what's kind of legit or cool or not, like not just like a gimmick trick, then you're playing with real things. Of course, everything's been done like you could like there's some ways you can like, all right, if you do like a shuffle into something, somebody will be like, there's a creative skater there doing it's like no, shuffle's been done a billion
Yeah,
times
people
and
have been doing
like
that for
it's
like
yeah,
five
anything, any
years.
like there's a weird world where people like myself who like doing like one wheel rolls, like manual tricks. Like you kind of that often gets you, oh right, doing some creative stuff.
Yeah,
It's like that's also been done a
it's done
million
to
times.
death.
Like
Like
yeah,
the toe roll, heel roll, all of that shit. It's done to
it's
death
none
now.
of it's new, none of it's creative. It's and a lot of
It's fun to do, and I like it. I like seeing people do it to a degree. Um, but I think if we're talking about stuff that we can leave for a while, and I'm guilty of it because basically I've only just kind of unlocked it.
yeah, they're really
Um,
satisfying to get though. Is like part
I
of
don't
it.
know if
Like
they're satisfying for me because it's the ping pong thing, right? Like when I get one, I'm never really sure why that was the one.
okay.
But it's it's nice to get them. But yeah, I don't
It's...
really need to see like too much more of that. People
What's
just
the
got
name?
so good at them, you know.
What's the name of the? What's his name? Why am I blanking on his name? Australian guy did that Instagram thing with the head going, doing the tour. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah,
Like,
yeah.
yeah, I get very self-conscious sometimes. It's like, right, that's absolutely me right now, trying to do
Yeah,
a
no,
big
that's so funny.
keep it
And then
40 foot tour.
no, because you said it. You said if the toe roll's too long, it loses a bit of magic. And I
Yeah,
totally agree. Like
yeah.
when someone starts to lose it and recovers it, that's a good point for it to finish. But when they lose it, recover it, and then I don't want to see the cycle. Like that's
No.
enough. Like you recovered it once. That's enough. I don't know what the I reckon you could put it on a if you just got a bit of chalk on the floor and we just drew a line. I reckon there's you could zone that as like too short, fine, it's getting too long. And then sort of past here, it's just like, all right, mate, you're brilliant at toe rolls. Fucking stop it now.
Yeah. Aye, there is a point as well, like the start and the ends, it's like grinds as well. The start and the end's kind of the interesting part, really. Unless there's
Yeah.
something weird going on in the middle. That's where the the bit's happening.
Roscoe does
Um
some fucking long ones, but he does them so fast that it's
he does them
fine.
so fast and he's like so still. Like he could
Yeah,
just be skating from place to place and
he
you
gets
wouldn't
mad.
think twice about it. Yeah, like yeah, he covers a lot of ground. But yeah. I'm trying to think of other things we're talking like where you've been I feel like you were getting maybe it's just a winter thing. You were like and you talking about looking back on your footage from last year, it was all this kind of solo sessions. It felt you were a bit kind of like about stuff and now you seem super positive about everything.
I had a
About
really fun year last year.
okay, okay.
I'm kind of it's a funny thing to do to sort of comp at the end of the year, and I've done it for the last few years, and this most recent one was my favorite. Is the one that I kind of worked the hardest to make it like a section rather than
hmm
just like
hmm
a dump. Um, I mean, you sort of said it's got that kind of like a bit of like a melancholy vibe, and I think that's right, and I think that
Yeah.
that's kind of what it felt like a bit. Um, but
Just
it's
with the
fine.
solo
Like
stuff, like so is you like that? You said that's partly what's inspired you to try and skate with more people. Like
I'm just trying to
even
make a bit more of an effort to do it. Um,
you were
Try and
near
just
me in
take opportunities to
Cambridge today, were you?
yeah. There's a new skate park in Cambridge. Matt drives, so he was up for driving out that way. Um, so no, I'm just trying to make more of an effort to do it. But
hmm
then also like I don't know. I am just feeling that like race of time and like hurting my ankle last year. It's taken ages to heal, and I'm
And that
like,
was basketball. You did that as
yeah,
well. It's
did
not
that
even
playing
skating.
basketball. Uh, and do you know what's funny, right? I was we were playing like 4 on 4. It's quite like I play with some decent people, and I'm getting all right. And there's a guy called Lynn, who's probably the best guy in the room, like younger than me, like really athletic, really good. And I was guarding him, and he was guarding me. So I was sort of talking a bit of shit, and I was like, I'd scored a couple of times, and he'd only scored once. So I was like joking with him. I was like, I'm 2-1 on you. You know,
Yeah,
we're
yeah,
playing a team game, but I'm 2-1 up on you. And we both just turned the notch up. And I mean, he could cook me pretty easily, but I was doing a good job on defense. And he's so quick. And I think I just stepped on someone's foot as I was moving sideways, and I heard it pop and crack and just all the bad stuff. Um, so that was like 4 or 5 months ago, and it's only really just about better now. Like I couldn't soyelle
jeez,
for
man.
4 months. Soyelle's like my best trick. So
Wait, what foot of the soya would it be? The groove
sulfur.
foot, the sole
So
foot. Okay,
it turned fine forwards and backwards and sort of left to
okay,
right, but it was like rolling over the front.
okay.
So if you can imagine on a soil, you've got that kind of like weird turn thing.
Yeah, yeah.
And I was like, I might never soil again. Like if uh, but I actually managed to do loads of skating through that by just picking different tricks that didn't aggravate it. And again, that was just quite a satisfying
Yeah.
process of being like, okay, well, this hurts, but this is fine.
Especially through winter, it's kind of good to have a like a different way of skating. Like it's almost like any skating's good in winter. So if it's got a slightly different recipe to it, then fair enough. You know, like it's
Yeah.
all just keeping you moving, and it's when you get a proper 3 4 months off. just without skating at all, that's when winter can be really like you spend the first 2 months of spring kind of getting everything back and getting used to it again, and that's when everyone ends up getting hurt because they go too hard too quickly or
I
all
reckon
this
that's
kind of
probably got
stuff.
to be the time that people quit, is when
Mm,
they kind of come out of hibernation and that first session just sucks. And your skates have just been sort of like seizing up a bit and they feel sluggish and
yeah,
like
yeah,
I reckon that's got to be the roughest time. It's probably still a bit
hmm
too cold. You're probably the
hmm
most out of shape you've been. Um, yeah,
yeah.
it's tough.
But we're the end is in sight. The sun, I can see the sun shining
It is
through
sunny
right now, and
today. It's
it's
amazing.
good, eh? It's cool.
It is
Um,
wetter for you though. Scotland's got like probably like 30% more rain than what I have.
yeah,
Can you imagine
it's
living somewhere where it's just dry, like
you would get
85%?
bored of it in a different way, I think. Like I don't know, like not of the weather, but like skating would feel different if it was just always available.
You
I don't know,
think?
like I would be good, yeah, but mm, there's something about like the little spots I skate here are you kind of there's little periods where they're kind of one's more out of bounds than another because of the weather, like or the school holidays. The little school ledges I skate, you can't really skate. They're best skated in the summer holidays when that area can really dry out and there's nobody around. So anytime I get back round to that cycle, it's like, oh, I've missed this place. I'm like really
Yeah.
enthusiastic for it. Same goes for the skate park, my local skate park, which I don't like that much, but I skate it the most just because it's there. Getting I don't know, at least 2 or 3 months having never been like that was the first time I was there properly yesterday. I was like, oh yeah, like I like being able to just navigate this place again. Whereas by the end of the summer, I'm like sick of it so much. Like, but if it was just there every single day, I don't know whether I'd just be like, oh
But
man,
then where you
this
live
place.
is just like it is pretty remote. Like
Yeah,
Stirling's a little place, and
yeah,
Scotland is kind of mostly empty.
yeah.
Um, like
There's a
even
lot of there is a lot of
London, I can
parks
hop on a
near
bus.
me. Yeah, that's true. Like I should skate more stuff that's drivable. I just kind of I'm often skating when I don't have the car. Like my wife's got the car, or I've just not taken it somewhere. But if I've got the car, like there's about 5 parks within half an hour, certainly more than that. Um,
Was it 2025 year of street skating, right?
good.
I want to
Same.
do more, way more street this year. I think that was one of the depressing things I saw when I was sort of chopping together footage was like, fucking hell, I've skated a lot of the same places and it's
Yeah.
parks. I think DIYs are a bit cooler than normal parks. So I'm going to give
Oh
myself
yeah, yeah.
that. It's definitely
Could
like,
you do DIY clips count in real edits? If
yeah,
they
yeah,
do,
I think so.
you'd be ha
I think they do in a way that skate park clips don't. I don't really mind seeing a mixture of footage, but I think if someone was putting together a street section
yeah.
and they use clips from a semi-crusty DIY,
Yeah, it needs to
I
be
could live
pretty
with that.
gross. Especially if they're skating some part of it that isn't just like, or this is the ledge somebody built. If they're doing something
Yeah, yeah,
weird
yeah,
on the perimeter of like, joining it together. It's often some kind of weird wall ride that probably nobody's hit
yeah.
before or something like that, then that kind of counts. Probably more so, I was thinking there's that new San Francisco kind of street plaza thing, which is officially kind of not escape so. But I was looking at that, it's like you couldn't put that in a video. It's still
Because
a skate park.
it's still been made for it.
Yeah.
Um,
But like there's something about how finished it is and something about it being kind of legitimized by the I don't know, the city that feels like it wouldn't tricks on that wouldn't count in a way that they would count in a DIY park and they
I
would
know,
count if it
I
was like
totally agree. And it's
I
so
know
funny
why is
because
that? It's
this
just
is like
nonsense, but yeah.
it's totally nonsense. It's just total arbitrary elitist bullshit to be like doesn't count. Like, of course it counts. It's
Yeah.
just I don't know. Like I look at skating as I was thinking about this the other day. I was like, I don't know if I think skating is art.
Hmm.
I don't know. I don't know if I'm even smart enough to answer that question, but I don't, it doesn't feel like art. It feels like a craft, but maybe not like an art. But I think putting together like a street section kind of is
Hmm.
in a
Hmm.
way that putting together a park section doesn't feel quite the same.
Hmm. I can
Almost
see.
like the horrible analogy, but like an oil painting and like a kind of something you made on Photoshop. That's what kind of I don't even think I'd necessarily stand behind that, but I'm just saying I recognize the difference between like a street part and a park part. I think a park part is more about the tricks, and a
Hmm.
street part feels more like a sort of an interpretation of the architecture or whatever. I don't know
I
how
think
far I stand behind that. I feel like I'm kind of
I think I'm with you. I think I'm with you. I'm kind of smiling because we're like getting into the is it art thing.
is it art? What do you think? Is
Is
it
it?
art?
Oh God, nobody's ever asked that question. Like, is it? No, like, but do you call breakdancing art? It's just kind of like like you could squint and be like, yes, it's a form of like performing arts, like of course. But on the other hand, you're like, is it art in the same way as like I'm like expressing something of like some kind of concept or idea through this medium, then it's a bit
Are you expressing something with skating?
no.
I think you're showing. I don't. Yeah, because I probably fundamentally don't think you're showing some. You're expressing something. I think through a street part that's like a collection of like 50 things that kind of merge together. I think maybe you are expressing something there. I think there's a kind of multiplier effect of that. I don't know if you're kind of
And it
visibly choosing to alley top pawn the ledge because
no, you're
or
just kind of
whatever. But then
no,
the
but
stances being like open and closed, I would imagine there's some pretty heavy linkage there with extroverts and introverts.
oh,
Um,
do you think?
I think I I think there
Wow,
could
right,
be. I think there
okay.
could be. Do you not? Do
E-
you not?
Extroverts love a Mizou.
Of the sweating. Yeah. I think there's something in that.
Introverts
I'm
be
literally
like,
just freestyling bullshit right now. So call me on it. We're gonna run out of time on this chat, so maybe
that's
we just start
fucking
fresh
hell.
in 1 minute 50. But you're an
Right.
innie kind of skater, right? You're
Yeah,
kind of fits in
absolutely.
kind of guy.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Introverts be like, so yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Extroverts blazing
I think
Mizou.
like real like if someone's gonna do a backflip in the skate park, I reckon they've got a good sweat stance as well.
Man. Yeah, people who have this the big sweat stance is like a safety trick. Folk who
Yeah,
can
yeah,
just
yeah,
sweat at anything. Like
yeah.
that's their first choice. That giant vert wall that's getting a sweat stance right on
You
the
know they're
top
not
of
doing like a real tight little fish brain, right?
This is
Fucking
good.
hell, man.
Right, right,
This spiraled off in a weird
right.
way.
We should just start the podcast there, just come in hot with that. I'm going to think about that
Let's leave
all
that one
day.
and
Yeah.
we'll see what comes back from it. Um,
That's amazing. Yeah, suppose we should get into the bigger skating stuff. We've got skating of the year times two. Um,
yep.
controversial. Um, which is it's been a bit of a conversation. If you're kind of taking it, you taking a little bit more of the discourse than I do. I kind of we're on a Slack which is where I get most of my kind of idea of what anyone's going on about. But you'll dip into Facebook and Reddit and stuff and kind of get yourself a bit
Ah, mate,
bit angry.
I do a bit. I do. I've been trying not to. I'm trying not to like hate watch anything this year.
Yeah.
Um, and I think my kind of high road opinion of this is, and I was thinking about this after we had our last podcast about skate of the year, because I think we both sounded a bit like, oh, we haven't got the skater of the year. And actually, we sounded a bit miserable about that, but
Hmm.
we were flooded with like incredible stuff last year. So
Hmm.
my disappointment was that there wasn't like a real clear standout. But the sort of the flip side of that is there's like 15 people that just went nuts last year, just
Yeah.
pumping out really good stuff. So we were kind of spoilt for it. And already this year there's some pretty good stuff that's already coming out. I
Hmm.
think again, shout out to Tom for getting money out to Sean Kelso and Chihiro. His results are obviously really different to One Mag's,
Hmm.
but I
Hmm.
think my diplomatic response to that is I think it's good that there isn't just like one media source that kind of overrides and shapes the whole narrative. And at one point, Daily Bread was that,
Hmm.
and VG was that. And I do think I kind of miss having those as like how a thrasher kind of, someone who just kind of like almost takes some ownership of the whole thing. But the flip side is that like I think skating, I think rollerblading's more diverse than skateboarding. I watched a clip on Instagram yesterday of a guy in like a uniform, like shorts and a vest, doing rec skating, and he does this like one wheel cess slide for like
Oh
30
yes,
feet.
yes, yes.
And I'm
I
like,
saw
that
that.
guy is actually not that far away from what we're doing. I don't know if skateboarding has got quite that level of like variety of kind of what's going on under their feet. So
Where
it's
is all
probably
that? Is it
good.
is it France that stuff's all massive? Like
They
and
love that shit in like continental Europe. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, like
It's
where there can be like I don't know, like even at the sports center here, there will be like all right, today we're just doing like a volleyball tournament, and it seems like there's teams from all over, all these, and like there'll be enough of an audience and all of that. And I'm like, all right, I guess there's this is going on, so
yeah,
it must be just like that kind of deal. But it is really jarring to see like inline skating in a proper environment with banners up. Like you see the banners at Winter
yeah,
Clash and stuff, I suppose, but there's like banners for shit you've never heard of. Everyone's in a uniform.
yeah.
There's a panel of judges. It all looks like as legit as any gymnastics like
No, it's
competition.
mad.
It's
But
weird.
it's cool. Like they're just doing their thing. So I think in some ways, I think it's good that our version of skating just doesn't really have that like one media source to rule them all.
Yep, yep.
And Tom hits a different demographic to One Mag and like Biz and Wheel Scene and Drummond. They all kind of hit kind of overlying pockets of different people. There are people that will just watch Drummond and they're
Hmm.
not
Hmm.
interested in any of the other stuff. So I think in lots of ways that's kind of good. Like
Yep.
um, we've got two quite different skaters of the year. Um, I feel more strongly about one than the other, but sort of I think my kind of take on it is that it doesn't matter. People voted.
Yep.
That's what people like. I think Kudo's been robbed a bit this year. It's a shame for him that he's kind of like not really taken the Grand Slam of any of them
He feels
because
like
I would have liked him to show up somewhere in one of the SOTY conversations a little bit more.
yeah, already it feels like he's always going to be the best and he's always going to get robbed like every year. It kind of feels
Do you
like
think he's sitting at home looking at his phone, being like, "Are you fucking kidding me? Like, what more do I have to do? Like, throw his phone
I
across
like
the."
to think he doesn't give a shit. Like he seems like he maybe doesn't. I like to
He
think
deserves to give a shit though.
yeah, and he wins all the stuff. He's got that going for him. He can be like, "Oh fuck yeah, I've won all
Yeah,
the actual
yeah.
comps." But yeah, it's a
Probably the
tricky
best
one.
paid rollerblader.
You would think or hope, yeah. Um, yeah, I don't know. I I don't even I didn't have a massive. We talked about it last time. I don't quite know what I think about it all. Like the skate of the year. I don't quite still don't quite know what I think about it being for money. That's somehow like that because I've followed the skateboarding one so closely for so long, and it was never about winning this cash prize. They will obviously the money in skateboarding is different, and presumably if you win Skate of the Year, you're going to be all right for cash for a bunch of reasons.
Yeah, I
Which
reckon Nike's probably given like Yuto Horigami like $250,000 when he wins Skater of the Year or something.
yeah, and
It's
it'll open you
they
up
got
to
they got money
different
swishing around in there.
sponsors and stuff like that. But the idea of like directly competing for a pot of money with this. It definitely, I feel like it definitely this year will play out. It feels like people will like go for it. They're like they are putting out what they put out because they want that pot of money. Even if it's not giant, like I know Tom's shooting for what, 30 grand for this coming year, which starts
Yeah, it's a
getting
lot of money.
a lot of money.
But
It's
you might
that,
as well shoot for the moon, right? And then you
yeah.
might get 15, right? I reckon he could double the prize pot from this year.
Yes, like this year's prize pot would be nice. Like if you got that out of nowhere, you'd be like, great. But it's not like not that 15 grand's going to change anyone's life, but it starts getting into like kind of this is this is
It's worth
real.
fighting for, right?
Absolutely,
I didn't
absolutely.
I'm all right with the money because the
I
money's
th
more of a like a kind of um it's a bit of a bonus in lots of ways. I think being the skater of the year is quite a cool thing to achieve. Um,
I
the
think
money is cool because it's coming directly from like fans, and
yeah,
I think we're getting the average age of rollerbladers is that lots of people are going to retire from skating, but
yeah,
you kind of want to keep them around as like fans in the same way like you know most football fans are not athletes.
yes, yes,
Winter Clash could be in 10 years' time, could just be full of dudes our age who haven't skated for 5 years. We just go to Winter Clash and
yeah,
hang out, and you see your
it,
buds and you watch
it,
them skating.
yep,
It's like Formula One or whatever.
yep.
So having that direct participation is quite cool.
I think I'm for it. I think I'm for it. What I'm for is that I like how it immediately made it like a legit like skater of the year thing. Like people had to take it seriously all of a sudden. It wasn't just Tom being like, "Oh, I'm going to do one," and everyone's being like, "All right,
Yeah,
that's cool." And like Kelso and Chihiro could like completely legitimately just put that on all their stuff. I won this. It wasn't just some bullshit thing that some guy on YouTube came up with. It was a real thing, and
yeah,
the money made it that real thing. Tom has a lot of history now. He's been doing it a wee. He's kind of done Skate of the Year things before then, and I think he's had people
yeah,
voting, and he does all these categories. But this one's the first one. Like, there's nobody would you like Kelso can call himself Skate of the Year
for sure.
and nobody can question it really. Like
Yeah,
some diehard one fan who's somehow super invested in one mag might be like, ah no no what like but most people will just outright be like, no, he can
yeah.
call himself Skate of the Year. He doesn't need to qualify it in any way. And I think the
Like if
mon
we if we decided on a skater of the year, that person cannot put on their
no,
Instagram skater of the year, right?
yeah, no,
But Tom putting some money up, I think, yeah, it totally changed that perception. And the idea that, even in skateboarding, the idea that there's just one overarching, in some ways I really like it because it's cool. But the idea that there's just like one kind of like decision that
yeah,
gets made,
yeah,
um,
yeah,
it's
and
cleaner and it's fun because people can disagree or whatever. But broadly speaking, they still support that it came from Thrasher.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
so I don't
yeah,
know. I think it's cool. I think it's just like we have a very decentralized industry in a way that very, very few activities will be as decentralized as as what we're doing.
hmm hmm
And I think that's quite cool. You've just got completely different people with completely different ideas, just kind of building their little bit of it
Yep. Yep. Yeah.
without without kind of without needing that kind of external finger point being like, this is cool, that's not cool. We're going to support this, we're not going to support that. Like it's just build it.
Yeah. And I like that. I like I like how small it is that anyone, for better or worse, can just be part of it, like, but be part of it in a
Yeah.
way that like they'll get eyes on them just because there's not much around. There's everyone kind of knows who everyone is as soon as you're kind of putting something out. Like we're putting something out and like there's some people watch it, like, and you're like, geez, right, like if this was if we were in if we were doing this about football, like how many fucking wee websites about football must there be? Like there must be so many just wee guys doing this absolute nonsense for things where it just gets lost in the wash. And it's dangerous.
Yeah.
Like you like already like kind of got to watch what you say and you got to like I don't even know where I'm going. I'm going to cut all this out because I'm just rambling. But you know what I mean? Like
No, it's no, it's interesting
it's
to
back,
just sort
but
of think about.
back to the size of it. Like the size of it is, I think it's good for people who feel compelled to like put something out that they'll get eyes on it and they'll kind
Yeah.
of like it's a nice little environment for doing that. Um, and there's
Can
a
I
there,
can I share a big theory with you, Dave?
yes,
A big theory. It's a response.
okay,
Um, because I when Sean Kelso got Skater of the Year, Tom Skater of the Year, definitely saw some people talking about kind of the scale of the spots that he was skating.
yes,
And I was thinking loads about it because I think if you take most semi-decent rollerbladers, average rollerbladers and below average rollerbladers, they could go to some of Sean Kelso's spots and get something on it, a
yes,
soul grind or whatever, right? They're not like impossible to hit spots. Some of them actually are pretty impossible, and but probably like a decent chunk of them are spots that you and me could get a trick on it. And I've when I think about the sort of response to some of Sean Kelce's tricks, it's kind of like, well, he's getting smaller spots. And I think there's a misunderstanding sometimes of like how hard the stuff he's doing is. And if you think about true fish on a ledge, doing a true fish for 3 feet on a ledge is really hard because
hmm
if you miss, you fall and it's really dangerous. But true fishing a ledge for like this far is attainable for someone.
hmm
It's doable. But for every extra foot you slide, it the magnitude of the trick goes up immeasurably, right?
yes.
Sliding a 10-foot tree fish isn't 3 times harder than doing a third of that distance. It's 100 times harder. And doing it 15 feet is 100 times harder than that.
And it also
And I
gets, so as somebody who probably will never do a true fish on anything, there's also the kind of slight, like, I might be wrong with this, where a truth, like, the lock might be different and there's obviously a danger, but true fishing a decently long handrail is a very different kind of difficulty to true fishing for a long distance on like a curved ledge, even if that ledge is low. Like
yeah,
once you're onto that rail, you're on the rail. Like it's hard to get on the rail, and there's danger if something goes wrong and all of that. But like the rail's going to do some of the work. The lock has a lot more wiggle room in what
yeah,
counts.
yeah.
And so there is some kind of argument that the ledge one is like more technically difficult.
Well, at
Yeah?
any point, if your weight starts to come up a bit, you can wash out at any point on
Yeah.
that trick. in a way, yeah, on a rail you kind of can't.
Or just that frustrating thing that, like, the thing that will get me on any ledge trick all the time. If your weight's just slightly off it, your speed will get you so far along it, but eventually you're just going to kind of need to, like, come off early, come off early, come off early.
Yeah.
And then being too far over it, you're just, all right, the lock's not right. Like, whereas, like, the rail, you've got all this room for swinging around. You can, yeah, sorry.
And it's not to say rails are easier, but like,
No,
yeah, the kind of like the randomness of falling on a ledge feels different. Like
yeah,
you can just lose it at any moment on a ledge. And so I think for me, that's like it's like I mean, how to sort of phrase it, but I think sometimes there's like a misunderstanding of how hard some of this stuff is because to do a tree fish for 15 feet, you have to go faster than most people would even feel comfortable doing a soul grind
yeah,
because
yeah,
the tree fish doesn't slide as well either. So though, yeah, I think when people sort of go, he's just doing P rail tricks or it's just like ledge tricks, I get really frustrated because I'm like, how do you not recognize that doing a technical trick for this far on a ledge is one thing, and your mate might be able to do that, you might be able to do that. But when you multiply that by 20
yeah,
and you multiply that by the speed by four,
yeah.
it's a completely different scale of it's like zooming out of the universe and seeing like the whole Milky Way. Do you know what I mean? And I think um, that's a challenge for Sean Kelsey because I don't know if he can win those people over, but
Yes.
there's something telling that your favorite skater's favorite skater is probably Sean Kelsey.
Yes.
Um, and it's something that like Cam Talbot has kind of got in his favor because his spots are really obviously
Yeah, they're just
fucking hard and
gnarly.
impossible.
Yep.
And just
And
doing
he,
anything on that is just like you're not going to touch that spot. So the assumption becomes that that's harder, but the maths just don't kind of necessarily work like that.
yeah. And Talbot's got that, he's got this a slightly different thing as well where he's not just doing like a gnarly spot. He will kind of navigate it in a slightly interesting way. Like he's got a bit of like, like there like he won't just pick like a rail downstairs. Like there'll be some
Yeah,
other thing going on, whether it's a particularly like ugly rail, like in terms of its kinks, or there's always something like so that just again backs that up. Like you can look at the
yeah.
thing and be like, fucking hell, like look at that thing.
He
Um
he proper won me over this year, Cam. I've
yeah,
always recognised that he's good, but he proper won me over this year because I was like, what a performance!
yeah,
What a kind of just a lot of work went into that, and um, I got a lot of respect for that.
yeah. The thing I notice most about Kelso that again maybe people are kind of missing is like when he'll come out of things the harder way. Like he'll rewind when it would have been easier just to kind of continue. Like all of those little things. And some of that does get a bit easier if you are holding something for a long time. I've noticed that myself. Like sometimes it's harder to, rewind the little 2 foot thing because you're all twisted up one way and twist. But
Yeah, yeah, you've got time to kind of open up.
he will do a lot of that kind of stuff that you're so amazed that he did the big sequence, and then when you actually go like, oh yeah, Andy like he like awkwardly
Yeah,
got it back round without it looking awkward at the
he does
end.
a true fish in. I sound like I'm obsessed with true fish. It's just a good barometer of a hard trick. He does a true fish with the like really expensive Apple headphones on.
Yeah,
Just watch the exit of that true fish because he does like a little like it's like this micro kind of victory dance. Like right at the end of the rail, he does this kind of little pop,
yep.
and it's like a real, if you watch some other people that have done equally hard rail tricks, are they kind of almost like dancing off the end with this like
It's the kind of thing you get to do with like your safety tricks. You can have a wee play with how we
yeah
think we talked about this last time. You can have a wee play with like how you flick your foot off then just because you've done it a million times, you'll do it a million more times. So this time I'm going to go, "Whoop," but like he
Yeah,
gets to do it on something nuts and
ridiculous things.
like,
It's why Brosco's stuff just looks mad at the moment because
uh-huh.
he's coming off of rails and he's just flying off of them with that backside where he just does the five off of it, and he's got so much time to just wind his shoulders up and just do this like slightly off axis, perfect five, perfect fakey roll away. Like it's just
Yeah,
like bonkers to just get to the point where you've got that level of confidence at the end of what's already a hard thing.
yeah.
I love to see it. I love
He
it.
he feels like he is just it's all just choices now. He just like I can kind of do whatever. So it's all just what am I choosing to use all this like all this power that I've built up?
Yeah.
Like what is a kind of final form of a skater? Like what will I put
Final
my
form. Yeah, that
yeah,
it
like
does feel like that. It's like, when Neo goes into the Matrix,
everything
right?
becomes easy.
Yeah,
Everything
yeah, yeah. And dude, it's amazing to watch it.
yeah,
It'd be interesting to see what happens this year because it does feel that there's bits of the industry that feel up and bits that feel down, but the kind of like the buzz for people just doing good, interesting stuff just feels very, very high
yep,
right now.
yep, yep.
Um, and kind of like we might not be selling as many skates. The industry might not be selling as many skates. I don't know, actually. Maybe they are.
I don't know. Well,
Um,
are we touching on the 901 thing? We're not really gear
I
talk
know
people.
Winter Clash is in a few days, so I guess
Yeah,
we'll find
just
out. I
let it
didn't
see.
expect them to do another skate. We'll,
Nah, like
I guess we'll see.
not super compelled by anything I've seen, and I'm just kind of looking for a reason not to have to buy stuff more than anything.
Yeah,
So if it comes out and it's not for me, that's great. Like as far as
fine.
I'm
Yeah,
concerned, yeah. Um, if I'm tempted, then it becomes a slightly different thing. I think I said this to people on the Slack. Like I just kind of hope there's a reason beyond like let's make another skate. Like I want some kind of concept or story or like this is why we needed another skate, not just because we wanted to make another skate. Like this is for this or this
yeah,
skate
yeah.
like so it doesn't look like
It's
it's going to
hard to
be
have two skates that kind of occupy the same bit of the market. USD have struggled with some of that stuff.
yeah,
Um, and it's why like I think it's really cool that like Lawrence made the Omni, right? There's
yeah,
a space in the market for the Omni. There's a space in the market for the T-neck.
yeah.
Um, Faction have got the plastic
T-Nex
skate
looking
coming out.
so
That's cool.
T-Neckers is they're having a good little bit right now. The skate is good looking. I don't think it's for me. Everyone who they're kind of sharing is skating it really well.
I think you'd love it, Dave.
I probably would. I probably should give it a try. But
They've managed to get this really cool thing where it's like Duran just strikes me as like a slightly chaotic good guy.
yep, yep.
Um, Chaotic positive on the grid, right? But he's
Yeah.
basically like bossed a great skate, but they're kind of really benefiting from this. Like skates are here, they're already out. Like it's cheap. Like we've made some smart choices. The team is ripping. It's really lightweight in the sense that
I
it's
was about to use the word light. Like it all feels light. It all feels like it's obviously a lot of work, but it all feels like it's not trying too hard. It all
yeah,
feels like just let's you meet people in life who are like that. They're just like
yeah,
I don't know, neighbor, like we used to live in Glasgow. She does like 40 different things, and then you learn about oh like, what you been up to, or like works this and this. I've started this project. I'm away down to the allotment to do that. Oh, we've just got some chickens. Oh,
yeah,
the ceiling came in, but I'll just fix that up like at some time. And like
yeah, yeah,
I've got a new baby, and like some people can
yeah.
just make things happen.
I think it's sick. I think it's really fun to watch, and congrats everyone that's dropping skates this year because that's a cool thing to do. I think you know I was quite chuffed to see Standard and Faction do well
Yes.
in the one mag polls. Like it's good that the effort that they're putting in is being seen. I think that's cool. Um, yeah, it's a good year for like if you're into stuff. If you can't find the thing that you want, you're probably just not looking hard enough for it. Like
Yeah.
there's loads of stuff.
Or you'll just be a never happy kind of person. You're just always kind of looking for the something
Yeah,
else.
maybe the game for you is just trying all the stuff, and that's kind of that's the fun of it. But
Have
yeah,
you, what are your,
I don't know
what are
where
your,
the industry's at.
what are your thoughts on missing Winter Clash then? Because we're not going, we're breaking a, you okay? I've seen you kind of swithering. You're worried
I'm
about,
wobbling, man. I'm
oh,
wobbling all
you
over the
still
place.
considering it? Yeah.
I don't think I can. It's probably too late now.
It's a bit late,
I
but
think when all said and done,
it's doable. It is doable.
it's dude, it's so doable. Do you notice I had this like just this vision of being like kind of floating around it this year, just without going with like a squad or
Yep.
crew or just
Yep.
one or two like really close mates. I've got this feeling that I'd have a really nice time. I'd just be floating around, and
Yep.
that isn't really what I want. Um, it does look fun. I always really enjoy it, but I think when it's finished, I won't care. But at the moment, I would love to be there.
Yeah. I'm happy that not everyone's like if everyone is going and it wasn't me, that'd be a bigger problem. But part of what
Yeah,
has made it our little team that we've been with the last couple years, it's not just that all right, everyone's here and you get to it's kind of felt a wee bit like everyone was on the same page as well, like who was there. So yeah, there isn't this floating about because everyone's priority mostly was trying to get a skate together in. Like
yeah,
the event is a thing you can do in the evening once that's happened. But even that part, to be like proper dad mode about it, we don't have like two guys in the little crew who were going there to get absolutely fucked up and like be
yeah.
out on it. Like there's not even like within the little like everyone was more or less like, oh yeah, like we'll do this. We're kind of here in skate mode and like
Yeah,
watch the event mode rather than like we're away for a party.
yeah.
Um,
No, no, I think that's worked really well. I would be if all of you guys went, I'd book a flight tomorrow for
yeah,
sure.
yeah,
But I'm all right with it. I want to make sure we replace it with something else.
yeah, yeah,
I want to just do a lot of skating.
yeah.
Um,
We'll figure that out. We will figure something out. Like it possibly opens up a couple of things. Like we could do a couple of I don't know. I'm not the organizer. Like I'll just kind of thumbs up to whatever
no,
somebody else
you're
picks.
the worst at that. You
Yeah, I
just like
hate.
leave everyone on red until someone was like, "I booked a hotel," and you'd be like, "Is there a space?"
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
That's.
but before we
Uh,
go, Dave, just
uh-huh.
wanted to you fucked me up on grabs.
Oh no,
Um,
sorry.
and I went skating the other day, and I purposely didn't grab any of my stuff that I would have grabbed. And I think you've broken my brain on grabs. Um,
Like
just explain your theory on why grabs, how you feel about grabs.
grabs. Like when I first learned about rollerblading, I thought they were cool. Like you would see Unity, or what was even before Unity? What did Unity come out of? Wasn't it a section
Skater
in
mag.
Skater Mag, inline Skater Mag?
Yeah.
Skater Mag. Yes, and you'd see the classic like hitting the ankles kind of melon head kind of thing.
Method. The method, wasn't it? Both
Method,
feet pulled
yeah.
back.
Yes. And the rocket and all this kind of stuff. And we're like, yes, like grabs are cool. And like that kind of made sense. And then I definitely have a vivid memory of being at the skate park, the same skate park, well, the same skate park that was in the same place as the one I go to now. And a skateboarder guy that I liked, he was a bit older, I liked, I respected this guy. He was a funny guy. He would just like talk shit anyway, just on anyone. He didn't have like a particular anti-rollerblade thing going on. But he just like, in genuine puzzlement, just went, why'd you, why'd you grab your boots? Like, they're not going anywhere. And Like I was like, oh, no, no, like, cause what's that? It's like, cause it looks cool. Like I do get it kind of like in the air. It can, if you're spinning, it kind of can stabilize things. I have found that because trying to spin ungrabbed, even a 360 out of like a launch, spinning an ungrabbed 360 and a grab 360 feel like quite different tricks.
Yeah.
I've kind of grown quite fond. Like it keeps you as one unit. Like I have a big spin problem where I do a kind of delayed turn with my shoulder where everything gets a wee bit round and I need to kind of whip my shoulder round at the last minute. And as soon as I
Right.
grab like a turn in one unit and it's
Yeah,
two
yeah,
different
yeah.
tricks. And I've had a lot of fun playing with the ungrabbed one where you slightly try and it's almost like a 180 late 180 like so it
Right,
all
the
gets
owl spin thing,
yeah,
right?
all of that kind of carry on feels really good, especially if you remember to tuck everything up and blah blah blah. So I kind of get that there might be a reason for it, but this guy's voice just rings in my head so much.
25 years later.
25
Where'd you
years.
grab your boots?
But then when it comes to grinds, it gets one step more ridiculous to me. It just it's like a silly thing. But again, I can't in contrast to that, I can't flip that like there are images of, the classic TJ Weber backslide, like lives in
Yeah,
my
it's
head
sick.
as like a really cool looking thing.
The one Brosco does in Nowhere is like in Sizemore done
That,
quite a lot
yep,
of
yep,
like, and the feet are just perfectly
yes,
parallel and they
yes.
don't move. Like it just looks,
And
it
I
looks sick.
get it. And I've never been good at grabbing backslides as much as I like to do backslides. I've not had much success grabbing them. So that's another little thing. But I just, all of that lives in my head. And then when I'm anywhere where there's other people around, I just feel silly as soon as I start grabbing my feet. I just like there's something that feels silly to me about, even though I kind of think it looks good. And then the other thing, I think they look fine like on vert ramps if you're doing airs. I think they look
I was
fine.
gonna say, I think it makes sense on that.
Yep,
Like when you're so up in the air that you can throw both your feet as far away from you as possible
yep.
and grab them.
And
It's like
at that point, each air is its own like position. That's the whole kind
yeah,
of point of it as well. Like there's a kind of reason for it. And anytime there's a bit of float, so anytime you've got a ramp or something like that, I'm a lot more forgiving because you get that moment of weightlessness where you can, even if it's a short grab, like you can get a proper like, there's a kind of little pause to the air that like just it all kind of makes a bit more sense to me. I've always not really liked street grabs too much, like down sets, because you're like you don't get that hang time. No matter how good a spring you are, there's the
this is
kind
just
of
down.
it's just down. Like
Yeah.
there's something, and so it kind of breaks. Even if like somebody's like doing a massive set of stairs, they're holding their blinking grab the whole time. It can be like a 2 second long grab. It still feels it loses that float. And then the worst crime of all, just to finish up, is the kind of
Prime
the slap off of a grind. Like
slap. Yeah.
the people who will try and fit a grab in if they're in the air for any length of time.
Yeah.
Any length of time. Like, can I get my hand to the feet? That was harder than not doing that, so therefore it's better. And like
Well,
that's
like
the
off the grind is the kind of most obvious
yeah.
case. Like,
And it can be down
yeah,
a fairly big drop. Like this could be like off a kind of out rail or something like that that gives you a lot of hang time, but it always ends up looking like a
I
and
think yeah, there's some examples where it's not, but I
yeah.
think the majority of the time it you'd be better off just kind of like finding a little shifty
Yeah.
and just kind of letting it float.
I feel like it makes the trick look smaller, like looking for that little grab. Whereas if you just
Yeah,
like hold the air, the one thing in contrast to that, I've spoken about this before as well, is I quite like if you're doing a grab grind and you're going off of something, and you get to add that time you were holding it as part of the grind as part of the overall grab. So
yeah, yeah.
suddenly backsliding off of something, you're already there. You just pull that other leg up, and that kind of works
Especially if
for
it
me
kind of
sometimes.
pops a bit, like,
Yep,
you
that
know,
that kind of
it's
works for
it's
me.
it's funny. I was skating the other day doing some stuff that would have required grabs, and I didn't. Um,
It's
it's
just
funny, like I didn't out eat fish. I never do out eat fish, and my foot was right there, and I was like, I could grab. It's nothing to just
the
grab
one
it.
on the coping. Yeah, it looked
Yeah,
great. That
I
one.
just left it,
Yeah,
and I was like, no, that was cool. I
it's
think,
just
yeah,
yeah,
you've either got to own the grab, and like best person that comes to my mind is Sizemore, because when he does do them, it's like he's like
yeah.
fucking yanking it, like,
He's
you know
so
that.
he's so like tiny and like can like so flexy at the same time. Like
Yeah,
he can
and his
really
feet come up almost like 90 degrees, like
yeah
it's crazy.
yeah
But kind of anything kind of short of that, and it can start to look like a
eh,
panic.
yeah. But to boil all that down, it just seems a bit silly to me for some reason. There's something silly about it that I can't. Once that infested my head that they're silly. I don't know what. Like,
That's
but I love a rocket fish. Like, who did the crazy was it Joe Atkinson did a massive rocket fish on like one of the blue things at Winter Clash, like maybe the year before. So a couple of years there was this big kind of up
Yeah,
ledge, like up
yeah, I
yeah,
remember the
like
one.
and I was like, damn, like it got the little kid thing in me, like fucking rocket fish.
Rocketfish is like a
You
real
can't
throwback to
an ungrabbed rocket fish is a disaster. Like,
don't
what
do
is
it.
that? Like,
Yeah.
don't rock it without the grab
There's
bit.
something about like grabbing it when it's all the way out there that's kind of there's something very human about like doing like a stretch and sort of
Yeah.
touching your toes or
Or the
whatever.
kind
So
of the ones that you kind of are turning and like you're turning with it and you end up like your foot's over here somewhere and
I'm
your
hot and
foot's
cold
up
on
yeah.
these. I am hot and cold on them because I think sometimes if you're just sitting on your boot, I'm like, I don't know. Sometimes people can get them really low and
Yeah.
their ass isn't literally on their cuff, and those ones I tend to prefer. Some people can just some people the rules just don't apply
Yeah.
to.
Yeah.
None of them. I was like, I feel like I want to wheel back my comments about park skating now because I don't feel like I've talked a bit of shit on park skating. I
But
love
bowls
park
though, but
skating.
somebody can put out a legit bowl part. Like skating
Yeah,
bowls in a part is better. Like I was thinking about that rather than like, all right, you're skating the fun box. Like who wants to see that? But like bowl skaters are like a different thing entirely as well. I don't know.
yeah, and just like all the rules, all the kind of
We
preferences
are
that I
gonna
have.
run out. I'm gonna say bye as we run out. But
This is
hey,
it.
look, this is it. That was funny. There's some
Good to see you,
funny
man.
stuff in there. Right, good. We got it done. See you later.
See you later.